Om Sarve Sukhina Santu Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukhamapnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all beings be happy. May all beings enjoy good health. May all beings see what is positive in others. May no one have to undergo any suffering. Om peace, peace, peace be unto all. So the topic is the sadhana of giving. When I discussed this with Mataji, Pravratika Brahma Pranaji, I gave her the topics, and the topic was the joy of giving. And she suggested, so it was part 1 and part 2. So she suggested, why don't we call it the sadhana of giving, part 1, that is the first one, and then the joy of giving, the part 2. And I immediately liked it. I thought this is a very good idea, because giving starts as a sadhana. We have the tendency to, gather things to ourselves. It's hard to share and give to others. It is like an instinct of self-preservation, of survival. So giving to others starts as a sadhana, like we have to force ourselves. And when we start doing that, we get joy, and it becomes the joy of giving. It stops being a sadhana, it becomes spontaneous, that we want to give. We don't have to force ourselves anymore. So starts with sadhana. Once I read in a book a nice saying. It said that what you keep for yourself, you lose. What you give away, you keep forever. Does it make any sense? What you keep for yourself, you lose. And what you give away is yours forever. How to understand this statement? In the Mahabharata, there is this passage, the Yaksha Prashna. The Pandavas came across this lake. They wanted to drink water, and there was a demigod guarding the lake. And he said, if you want to drink water, you have to answer my questions. So he asked many questions, and Yudhishthira answered them. So one question that the Yaksha asked was, what goes with a person after death? When we depart from this world, what accompanies us? And the answer from Yudhishthira was dharma. Dharma is what accompanies us after death. Everything else is left behind. Relatives, property, the body, everything that connects you to this world is left behind. The only thing that goes with us is dharma. And of course, adharma also, the counterpart. So good and bad, whatever we have done, stays with us like a rucksack we have to carry. So from that point of view, this statement would make sense. That what you keep to yourself, you lose. That means you may have $1 million, you may have a beautiful house, you may have a wonderful family, but eventually we will lose it. It may be today in an earthquake, it may be at the time of our death, but it is 100% certain that we will lose it. It's a matter of time. So whatever you keep to yourself, you will lose. It is a fact. But Maya veils our eyes, and we don't want to think about these things, and we think that they will never come. But it is a fact. It's a matter of time. So whatever we keep to ourselves, we will lose. It's a fact. Whatever you give away is yours forever. Well, as dharma, it is yours forever. You help somebody. That action will accompany you. It is yours forever. So whatever you gave, whatever you help you gave to others, it is stored up in your name. You helped somebody, you gave something. That is yours forever. So it's an interesting statement. So why should we give? Why? There are two reasons. One is because we have no choice. So we have to give because we have to give. Otherwise, it will be taken from us. One example is taxes. We have to give. If you don't want, you have to give. Suppose you say, oh, I will not pay any taxes. Well, there will be consequences. You may go to jail or whatever, I don't know, depending on where you live. But it won't be pleasant if we don't pay our taxes. So we are getting, trash collection and police protection and firefighters service, whatever, through our taxes. So we are getting something and we are giving in exchange. So that is one kind of giving that we all do. So we give because we have to give. Life is give and take. People will give us things and we will give to them. There is nothing spiritual about it. It's just how life works. It's how this universe is made up. You cannot live without taking from others and without giving to others. It's just not possible. So that is the first type of giving. Why give? Because we have no choice. The second type of giving is, I give because I want to. Nobody's telling me to give. Nobody expects me to give. And yet I choose to give. When we do that, that is a spiritual thing. We don't want anything in exchange. We are not expected to give, and yet we want to give. When that happens, that is a spiritual act. So why give? Swami Nirakarananda asks, why should we do good to the world? Apparently to help the world, but really to help ourselves. So we can't really help the world. Even when you give something, you are getting something in exchange. Now, suppose you say, okay, I give $1,000 to a charity. I'm not getting anything in exchange. Maybe a receipt. That's all. Piece of paper. So how can you say I'm getting something in exchange? I give something away, I don't get anything in exchange. And I make it an anonymous donation. I get even less. I don't get any recognition at all. But really, when you observe how the universe works, you can't give without receiving. It's just not possible. Suppose you have two bowls. One is empty, one is filled with water, okay? So you pour the water from one bowl to the other. Now, the bowl that was full is empty. But is it really empty? No. The air that was in the empty bowl has passed to the bowl that had the water. So as you empty the water, it fills with air. So that is one very simple example how you can't give and not receive. You will get something when you give. When you help somebody, you will get. Now, what it is, well, that's a matter of debate. You don't get the money back, but you are getting something else. So why give? Swamiji asks, why help the world? Apparently to help the world, but really to help ourselves. Somehow, when we do something for others, that will help us in a kind of mysterious way that we don't understand. It's not very obvious. It's not that immediately you will get the benefit, but something happens there. We get something. The psychologists, they say there is something called the helper's high. You can get high on drugs or on many things. You can get high on doing things for others, helping others. Apparently, this is according to the psychologists. They say that selfless service is followed by positive emotions. Whenever we do something for somebody else, we will feel good about ourselves. It will be good for us. And this has been measured in studies, that really, when you do something for others, it is followed by a feeling of well-being. The people who help others, they have better health, a longer life, and they say that their stress decreases. Now, this makes sense. Suppose a person is very self-centered. What will happen? They will always be thinking about themselves. What will happen to me? What will happen to me? What will happen to me? Now, that creates stress. The more I think what will happen to me, the more worried I am. But if I am thinking, oh, what happened to you? Then for the time being, I'm forgetting myself. So it makes sense that the stress goes down, because for the time being, I forgot what will happen to me. Oh, what will happen to me? I don't care. Today I care about you. So Lincoln has a very nice saying. He says, to ease another's heartache is to forget one's own. When we ease somebody else's heartache, for the time being, we forget our own heartache. So even psychology says that when we do things for others, we get something. So there is joy in receiving. Everybody understands that. When we get something, we are happy. Somebody gives us a gift, we are happy. But there is joy in giving also. And many people don't understand this joy of giving. There is a story that once there was a hiker in the mountains after a heavy flooding, and she was walking by the river and she found the gold nugget that had become exposed. So she picked it up and she was looking at the gold nugget. And then another hiker came along and he said that, oh, you're so lucky you found this gold. If I had come a couple of minutes earlier, I would have found it. And then she asked, do you want it? And he said, yes, but it's yours. You found it. And she said, no, you can have it. And she gave him the gold. So the man was puzzled. How come you are just giving me the gold just like that? And then she explained to him that, look, if I keep it, I'll have the joy of owning it. If I don't keep it, I have the joy of giving it away. So there's joy also in giving it away. So some people do not understand that. How can you give it to me just like that? Yeah, if I keep it, there is some joy in that. If I give it away, there is also the joy of giving it away. So we ask the question, why give? So it's not to help others, but to help ourselves. So let us make a pause here. Any questions or comments?
So the question is, when you start giving, then what point does it kind of boost your ego and you fall into that attachment that I'm giving? Is there like a possibility of that? So, and if so, then how people should negate that?
Okay, so the question is that it?
Yes,
yeah. So the question is, when we are giving to others, when we are helping others, is that a possibility that the ego may awaken in us and manifest, and we become egotistic that I am doing this, I'm good, I'm better than others? And if that is the case, how to deal with this? How to prevent this from happening? And the answer will come in the next, when we proceed. So I don't want to give it out of context. Yeah, it will come. It will come. We don't want to give it out of context, but it will come. Anybody else, or shall we? Yeah. It's a very good question. And it's a very common problem. This is really an important issue.
Maharaj, I've been to many of the Vedanta centers, and there are walls of plaques saying so and so did this much, and so on and so on. um, that seems to sort of negate what you said, which is the joy of giving. If you have it because you can make better use of it. Why this display of things?
Okay, so the question is that you have seen in many Vedanta centers that there is a mention of people who have donated, contributed, say, to the building of a temple or something, and there are plaques with their names. Is that what? Yeah. So isn't this the contradiction with the idea that you're giving just for the sake of giving? Is that correct? Something. Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you mentioned, but at the same time, many people are giving in the name of their parents or in the name of their spouse. So there is not necessarily that they want to be recognized, but they want somehow to connect their beloved deceased spouse or parents to that act of charity as a way of honoring them, as remembering them. So I don't see anything wrong with that. If you want to contribute to the building of a temple or something, but you want to do it in the name of your whoever, person, you are thinking of them. I am doing this for my father. I am doing this for my wife or my husband. So from that point of view, it's like allowing a little humanness. We are human. We are human, and we have these relationships. So I do it in the name of my whoever. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's more, this is a plaque that will be in a corner. It will be in a corner and nobody will look at it. So what big a deal it is not a big deal. Many people choose not to do that. Many people will just give and not have any mention, and others will have a little mention in a corner somewhere. I think it's much worse when we start saying, I did this, I did that, I gave this, I gave that. Some people beat their own trump, their own drum, sorry, but blowing their own trumpet. But this, I don't know. Yeah, it seems to be a contradiction, but somehow it doesn't bother me. I think it's a cultural thing. In the West, we don't do that. In India, people do that, and it never bothered me. Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Shivaya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha, 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 Shivaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. Very good. So we spoke about why give. And we saw that Swamiji said that we only help ourselves. We cannot help others. We give just to benefit ourselves. That's the reason why. Now, what to give? That would be the next question. What can we give? Swami Vivekananda says, first comes the gift of food, next the gift of learning, and the highest is the gift of knowledge. So first is the gift of food. By that he means material things, not just food. Suppose a person is in need and they're hungry and you feed them. Then in the evening they're hungry again. So you help them, but only for a very short time. Now suppose instead of feeding them, you teach them how to cultivate the land and feed themselves. So now you have solved their problem for a longer time. And that is the gift of learning. Swamiji said that is the second gift you can give. The first one is the gift of food. The second is the gift of learning. You are giving them the means to be independent. You're teaching them something. And the last one is the gift of spiritual knowledge. That's the highest gift we can give. But first we have to have it. We cannot give what we don't have. So to give the gift of spiritual knowledge, we have to be spiritual to begin with. But that's considered the highest gift. And you see in India that there is a great respect for the guru in India, but it's not just a spiritual guru. Somebody who teaches you music, somebody who teaches you any kind of knowledge. They are highly regarded. There's respect for the teacher as the guru. Now, you may say, but you're paying them. And so like in the West, the idea would be, well, you're teaching me something and I am paying you. Why should I be respectful? I mean, why should I be, like treat you like a guru? It's a fair deal. You're teaching me, I'm paying you. But in India, it goes beyond just giving paying for the teaching. You also show in the culture this respect for the teacher in all fields. Whenever we get knowledge, we have to show respect to that person who gives us that knowledge, even if it is secular knowledge. So what to speak of spiritual knowledge? That is the highest respect, because the spiritual teacher doesn't want anything in exchange. All they want is a little bhiksha. That's all. They don't want anything else. So Swamiji says, what to give? First, the food, material things, the gift of learning, and then the gift of spiritual knowledge. Swamiji continues, in the world, take always the position of the giver. Give everything and look for no return. So, take the position of the giver. We saw that in this world we can give and take. There's no way out of taking. We have to take, we have to give. There's no way out. But if you have to choose between the two, better be a giver than a taker. Yes, you have to take, but have the attitude of a giver. I want to give as much as I can, and I want to take as little as possible. Now, the taker would be somebody who wants to take as much as they can and give as little as possible. So Swamiji said, always take the position of the giver in this world. Give everything and look for no return. Now, what can we give? That was the question we asked. What can we give? Swamiji tells us what we can give. He says, give love, give help, give service, give any little thing you can. So it's interesting. He says, give love. That's the first thing he mentions. Give love. Normally, when we think of charity, love does not come into question. Like charity means money. But Swami Nirakarananda, the first thing he mentions when he says take the position of the giver, he says give love as the main thing. The first thing is give love. The second thing is give help. With the attitude of love, you can help others. Helping without love is no good. So first give love. Out of that love, help, you will be willing to help others. Give service. And then he says, give any little thing you can. So material things would fall into this category. Any little thing you can. Giving love is more important than giving material things. So he says, let us give out of our own bounty, just as God gives to us. It is God who has given us everything. So if we give love to others, it's because God has given that love first to us. Otherwise, we couldn't give it. So if you try to find God in this world, where could you find God? What is for a devotee, what would be the proof that God exists? Where can we find God? Well, one way to look at it is wherever there is life. Life is an expression of the divine. A living being. That freedom of existence, that desire to exist is an expression of the divine. So that is one place where you can find the divine, wherever there is life. The other place is wherever there is love. God is love. In this world, wherever you see an expression of love, it is the divine manifest. Where there is life, where there is love. Now you may say, what about the opposite? There is death, and there is hatred. Would that be the devil? So Vedanta says, no, it's just, there's an obstruction. There was a divine presence in a being that was alive, and that presence has been withdrawn, and we call it death. That's all. Death is nothing but absence of life. So hatred is nothing but an obstruction to love. Love is being obstructed and not allowed to flow, and we call it hatred. Hatred is absence of love. So in this world, at the very basic level, where to find God, where there is life, where there is love. So Swamiji says, let us give out of our own bounty, just as God gives to us. God gives to us. Let us give out of that bounty that God has given us. Now, suppose we give love to others, we give service to others. Then what happens? Well, somebody's watching. The Divine Mother is watching, and she will think, oh, this guy, I gave this and he gave it away. Let me give more. Because he's not keeping anything. So I gave him or her so much love, so much help, and they are distributing to others. So the Divine Mother says, okay, let me give more, because he will distribute more. And somebody says, okay, I have this little love and this little help. I will not give to others. Then the Divine Mother says, okay, they are fine as they are. They don't need any more. They are holding on to it. So this is what Swamiji says. Let us give out of our own bounty, just as God gives to us. Whatever we have came from God. Even our talents, our abilities, everything comes from God. We cannot claim that we own anything. So it comes from God. Let us share with others, and God will give more. So this answers the question, what to give. The first question was, why give? The second question is, what to give? And we see that material things come at the end. And the first thing that Swamiji mentions is love, help, service, and then material things. You know, that explains why nowadays in modern society, the kids have so many problems, because the parents are too busy and they give them everything, so-called everything, but no love. It's not that they don't love them, but they don't have time to show it in the proper way, spending time with them. So the kids have problems. They have the best, they live in the best houses, they have the best holidays, they have the best medical treatment, best food, everything best, best gadgets, and they have so many issues. There's something missing there, very basic. That attention, that love, that, you know, spending time together. Swamiji says that comes first. That is the best thing we can give. That is the most important thing we can give, love, service, and then material things at the end of it. Now, before we proceed to the next question, any question about this? Or shall we proceed? Yes. Okay, very good. So the next question would be, how to give? We saw why give, what to give, and now how to give. Swami Nirakarananda has a very interesting statement about how to give. He says, let the giver kneel down and give thanks. Let the receiver stand up and permit. Try to picture in your mind. The giver kneels down and gives thanks. The receiver stands up and permits. Something's wrong there. It just challenges our notion of what given should look like. There's a beggar looking up below, and somebody drops something from above. That is our very strong bias. That is how we conceive giving. Giving means helping. So if somebody needs help, that means I am better than them. I have more resources, so I can help them. But Swamiji turns it around, upside down, and says, no, let the giver kneel down and give thanks, and let the receiver stand up and permit. How to explain it? Swamiji says, if you do good at all, you do it to yourself. First sentence, if you do good at all. There's a question. Sometimes we think we are doing good, but it may not be so. We think we are doing something very helpful, but it may not be so. There's a nice story in Swami Nirakarananda's life. He was a young student, and once he encountered a sick dog in the street, and it had very bad wounds. And the Swami thought, let me try to help this dog because he's in a miserable state. So he was going to the lab. He was a student, and then he thought, let me find something in the lab to treat the dog. And they found some carbolic acid, and that is antiseptic for the wounds. You know, it will heal them. So the students applied this to the wounds of the dog, and they felt happy that they could help the dog. So the Swami went and did some business, and then he came back along the road a few hours later, and he found the dog was dead. So what happened? Well, the dog had licked the wounds, and that was poisonous. So a human being will know that this has to be applied externally, and I cannot take it internally, but the dog doesn't know. It just licked the wounds and died. So Swami Nirakarananda tells this story to show that often we think we are doing good, but we are not doing any good at all. So Swamiji makes it clear here. He says, if you do good at all, you do it to yourself. First question is, it's not clear whether we are doing good. But if we do good, we are doing it to ourselves. Swamiji continues, feel that the receiver is the higher one. You serve the other because you are lower than he, not because he is low and you are high. According to the scriptures, the giver is lower than the receiver. How do you explain this statement? Swamiji says that according to the scriptures, the giver is lower than the receiver. Doesn't seem to make sense. Well, Swamiji himself answers this question. He says, according to the scriptures, the giver is lower than the receiver because the receiver for the time being is God himself. That is how we can picture ourselves below the receiver. The receiver is higher because for the time being, it is God presenting himself, presenting herself before me. The Divine Mother is before me. I cannot help, I can only serve. And this makes sense when you think about our service. When it is connected to God, we become very humble. Spontaneously, nobody has to tell us to be humble. Suppose you say, I will bring food for Durga Puja. I will bring dal for everybody. I will bring vegetable for everybody. So you cook at home and you bring it to the temple. And then you say, I hope it's okay. I hope it's enough for everybody. I hope there is nothing wrong. So this humility comes because you're doing it for God. You're so afraid of making a mistake. You're so humble. But when we encounter a beggar in the street, we don't have that attitude. Oh, I hope $5 is enough. We don't say that. The trick is to always associate it with God, whether you're in the temple or outside. It is God we are encountering. It's the same God. So we have to expand this attitude of humility that we have here at the Vedanta Society. Expand it in all fields. It is God we are encountering. So How to give? Swamiji says, put yourself below and the receiver above. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, you come across a passage where the teacher is saying farewell to the students who are leaving after being taught by the teacher, and he deals with this issue, this subject of giving, how to give to others. So the teacher says in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Shraddhaya deyam ashraddhaya deyam. Give with shraddha, give with faith, give with love. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says, give me a fruit, a flower, a leaf, a glass of water. These are very basic things. Even a beggar can afford these things. You can have nothing, and still you should be able to offer these things. So Sri Krishna tells the most simple things that you can imagine. Just a leaf, just a flower. But do it with devotion, and I will accept that offering. So Shraddhaya deyam, give with that love, that respect, that attitude. Sri Ramakrishna also tells a nice story about it. There was a landlord who had a vast property, and he had many employees under him. He doesn't know who they are. So he moves around from one estate to another. So he came to one place, and he was in the living room in the house, just relaxing there. And then he noticed one gardener enter the room, and he's holding something in his hand and standing there. So the landlord says, hello, what do you have there? And the gardener says, sir, I brought this for you. And he gave him a mango. And the landlord is so pleased. Oh, this is a wonderful mango. You kept it for me. You picked it up for me. Yes, sir. And the landlord is very happy. He says, so I'll have it tonight. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful mango. Now, the estate belongs to the landlord. The whole orchard belongs to the mango, to the landlord. Every tree and mango belongs to the landlord. So this gardener is bringing his own mango, okay? He didn't go and buy it. He picked it from his own garden, the landlord's garden. It is the landlord's mango that the gardener is giving him. But he's so pleased. Oh, you have saved this for me. It's a wonderful mango. Thank you so much. So why is he so pleased? It is his own mango. Because of the love, the thought, the action. When he saw that mango, he thought, I will save this for my boss, and I will give it to him. It is, so Sri Ramakrishna gives the example to illustrate that God does not care about what we offer or what we give, but how we give it, our intention, our love. After all, everything belongs to God. Ganga Jole, Ganga Pujo, they say in Bengali. You are worshipping the Ganga with Ganga water only. So, Shraddhaya Deyam, give with that love. God will accept it. It doesn't matter if it is big or small, valuable or not. It is the love that matters. Then, Ashraddhaya Deyam, don't give without this Shraddha. Without love, better don't give. If you're going to give without love, don't give. It's better. In Holy Mother's life, you come across this incident where her niece is feeding Amjad, who was a Muslim robber, but he was devoted to Holy Mother, and Holy Mother treated him very nicely. So once he was being fed in Mother's house, and Mother's niece was feeding him from a distance because he's a robber, and so she's throwing the food from a distance on the plate. So Mother noticed this and said, how can anybody enjoy a meal being served like that? And she said, go, I'll do it. And Mother herself served him very lovingly. So the idea is, if you're going to do it without love, don't do it. It's better not to do it. Then the teacher says, Shriya deyam, give according to your means. You don't need to get into debt to give to others. If you are poor, give a little. God doesn't care. There's an instance in the Bible where Jesus was sitting in front of the temple and many devotees came to make offerings, bringing huge amounts of wealth and gold, etc. And then a poor widow came and offered 2 copper coins. It's quite insignificant. And Jesus said to his disciples that this lady has given more than all the others together because she has given according to her means with love. So, Shriya deyam, give according to your means. We have a devotee, we used to have, not anymore, but she used to send gifts to the Swamis. And she had no money. And she used to send gifts that nobody wanted. So that is not ideal. Give according to your means. Then Hriya deyam, give with humility. We saw that already. Just like when you are offering to God, you have that humility. Give with the same humility in every situation. Bhiya deyam, give with fear. Now, why should we be afraid while giving, while helping others? Why should I be afraid? Well, like somebody mentioned earlier, the ego may come up and I may become egotistic. Like, oh, I have done this, I have done that. I should be afraid that, oh, my ego should not arise. I'm afraid that I pray to God that, I'm trying to do this action, but please don't let my ego get out of control because of this. Please, I'm afraid of this. I don't want my ego to take over. Bhiya deyam, give with fear of making a mistake. Samvida deyam, give with understanding, with agreement. That is an important point also. Sometimes we want to help others, but the others don't want to be helped. Samvida deyam, give with that understanding when you're helping others. That reminds me of a funny story. So one teacher had young kids in her class, and she told them, every day you have to do a good action. That's how you become a good citizen. That's how you become a good person. Try to do something good for others every day. And then she gave an example. What is a good action? Suppose you see an elderly person waiting to cross the road, by the road. So you help them cross the road. That is a good action. So I want you to do some good action, and tomorrow you come and report to me. Tell me what you have done. Okay. So the next day the kids come back and she asked John, so John, did you do any good action? And he said, yes. Yesterday, while returning home from school, I saw an old lady by the road and I helped her cross the road. And the teacher said, oh, that's wonderful. That's a good action. Then she asked Mary, Mary, what did you do yesterday? Any good action? She said, yes. Yesterday when John was helping the lady cross the road, I helped her also cross the road. Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. It's a good action. Then she asked another boy, so what was your good action? And he said, yeah, when I saw Mary and John helping the lady, I also helped them so that the lady could cross the road. And the teacher was surprised. She said, but why so many of you helped the lady cross the road? I don't understand. And John said, because she wouldn't move. So samvida deyam, there should be agreement. Sometimes we want to help, but the other person doesn't want to be helped. So we have to think, is this really meaningful? Is this what the receiver would like? That is samvid. When I was, some time ago, I was in another monastery. There was one devotee who would bring a mala, a garland for Sri Ramakrishna every day. She was doing this for many years. Then one day, another devotee came and brought a mala for Sri Ramakrishna. Now the Mohanta was in a fix. This lady is bringing mala every day, and today she will also bring mala. And this lady has also brought a mala. What to do? We only have room for one garland. Then he told the lady, okay, you have brought it, today is fine, we'll manage. But there is another person who is bringing every day. So you don't need to bring a garland. There is somebody who is already doing that. So this is sambit that give with understanding. Is it proper? Is it what people expect from me? Will they be happy with my contribution, with my help? So it is very important. When should we stop? Rekha, you tell me. Okay. So shall we do questions and answers then, in case there is any question? You had a question, you said? Okay.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. So I guess this question relates to the saying that you said, if you do any good at all. So from one perspective, you go to the street and if you find somebody like a beggar or someone and you want to help, sometimes we try to make a judgment whether that person really needs help. For example, if you see an old man or someone disabled, we openly help. But then sometimes we see a person who is able-bodied and we think that maybe that person could work and maybe we shouldn't encourage that behavior. And so that comes to the question of, are you doing good at all? So from that perspective, I think we can say, yeah, that is good. You don't encourage that behavior, maybe. But from other perspective, if we think that, okay, giving, at the moment of giving, that other person is God, just like as you mentioned, and it's a spiritual act. So from that perspective, it doesn't matter who is asking and the person asking is giving. So is there a conflict here? Is there a kind of, and how do you resolve that?
Yeah. So yes, I'll try to. No, that's fine. It's a good question. So when we want to help others, sometimes it's very clear what we are supposed to do. You see somebody who is disabled, you see somebody who clearly needs help, then you can, without any hesitation, help them. But sometimes it's not very clear. You see somebody who is able-bodied and is asking for help, and you wonder whether your help is really meaningful, whether that person should be helped, or rather they should be encouraged to fend for themselves. Is not clear sometimes. So there is this conflict that sometimes we don't know what to do. What is better, to help them, just thinking that it is God appearing before us and not worrying about whether they are sincere or not, or should we, use our judgment and in some cases not help? Well, it's very subjective. Who can tell what's right, what's wrong? So each person will have their own approach, and that's why God is called the Antaryamin. God is called the inner controller. God looks at our attitude, and that is what matters. So it's not that we'll get it right every time. Sometimes we'll get it wrong. We are not perfect. We are not infallible. So sometimes our judgment will fail us. You may see somebody who is able-bodied, but who really cannot do anything because they may have some mental issues. But our judgment may tell us, okay, don't help. And we don't help. And we make a mistake. Well, that's okay. We are not perfect. We are not infallible. But we are trying to help to the best of our ability and according to our understanding. So God knows, okay, these guys are not perfect. They're trying their best. And that is the important thing, to try our best according to our understanding. And sometimes if you feel like helping is not the right thing, don't help. Vedanta gives that freedom. Like, you are free. Use your judgment. That's the beauty of Vedanta, that we have so much freedom. to do what we feel is best. There are very little do's and don'ts in Vedanta. You will find that not many rules and regulations, even in our order. Some swamis like Advaita, some swamis like Bhakti, some swamis are vegetarians, some swamis are non-vegetarian. You see so much variety, because there's a beauty of freedom. There's a beauty in variety. Otherwise, everybody's following the same like a robot. That's no good. So we have to use our judgment and do the best we can. But there is really no answer to that question that you can tell, oh, you have to do this or that. There will always be gray areas where we have to just use our own judgment.
Any other questions?
Once I was giving a retreat, and one devotee took me his car to show me around the city. And so I noticed he had some bananas and some small boxes of cereal. And then I noticed that when he stopped at the traffic lights, there would be beggars. And so they would come and knock at the window or just wait there. And so he would give them, he would say, I have bananas or cereal, and just hand it out. And it was interesting to see the reaction of the people. Some of them looked like able-bodied, some looked like really helpless. And so some of them took it with thanks. They were smiling and say, thank you. Some like, okay, like disgusted, but okay. I would like, yeah, he's giving you that. But some were really mad. Really mad. No, I want money. What is this? And they would throw it back. So it was interesting to see the reactions. Maybe all of them need help, but some of them want only money. So this devotee said, no, I will not give. I'm sorry, I don't have money. I don't believe in giving money, but if you're hungry, I have this for you. He had it figured out. He figured it out for himself what he wanted to do. Sure.
Maharaj, the one dilemma that people generally get into or we get into is in the society there are a lot of good things happening, and there are also not so good things happening. And today in the information age, you get to see and hear a lot of details about the good as well as not so good things. And we know that when you hear and see more about not so good things, you always want to help. And there are different ways to help. You can go in the streets, you can protest and do all that anti-establishment and raise the voice. That is one side. But you know that the more you get involved, it creates an impression in your mind, and then you feel that it is difficult to meditate and concentrate when all those things keep coming to you. So in that kind of a situation, what is the best way? Because you don't want to ignore the problems. You want to solve them. Like be a help towards the people who are suffering, but as well you don't want to impact the overall mission of reaching towards God.
Yes. So let me try to repeat the question. So we see things, in modern life through the media, etc. We see positive things and negative things, and when we see so many negative things happening, we feel that we should do something. We should help in some way. But at the same time, if we absorb so many of these negative ideas, it will affect negatively our mind, our spiritual life. So what is the solution? How can we help and get involved and know what is going on, at the same time not be affected by it? Is that more or less the question? So yes, this comes up a lot nowadays because of the wealth of information that we have. That we are all the time being bombarded with information, and most of it is negative. I mean, at least it's more negative than positive, you can say. Once I was listening to a lecture by the Swami, who was the founder of the center in Argentina. So these lectures, he gave it in the 60s, in the 1960s. So more than 60 years ago, about 60 years ago. And he's telling that Israel bombarded Lebanon. Okay, that was the news. And so when you're having your breakfast, as soon as you wake up, you go and read the newspaper and you read this: Israel has bombarded Lebanon. And he's telling, you are sitting in Argentina. What is that to you? But the shocking thing is that same thing is going on now, 60 years later. I was shocked when I heard that example, because, okay, it may be Gaza instead of Lebanon, but it's very similar. Huh? And people are very worried it's like the end of the world. Well, it looked the same way 60 years ago. It's a Maya. It's never ending. It will always be there. So the Swami was telling, what is that to you? Can you do anything about it? Why do you want to start your day hearing about something that is happening thousands of miles away from you that you can do nothing about? So that is one point to consider. And yes, we have to know what's going on and we have to try to help. But the question is, how much of the information we absorb leads us to action? I would say 0.0001%. It's like very little. So how much information do we need? Is much less than what we get. If you want to know what's going on, maybe 10 minutes a day is enough. 10 minutes, you can know what's going on in the world. So the question is how deep you want to go into these things. And that is something that we have to find out for ourselves. But in general, you can say that we all can reduce this. In general, we are all consuming too much of this negative information. So personally, I have come to the point that most of the time I read the headings. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. Just the headings of the news, I do with that. I don't need to. That's why I don't subscribe to any paid service, the newspapers. They're all free. The headlines are free. You just look at the headlines. That's enough for me. But it really affects us. It really affects us. And we have a class in St. Louis that we have every Wednesday, just an informal discussion about Vedanta. And it's interesting that this topic comes up a lot. That how we should know what's going on, but at the same time, I think it's bothering a lot of people, especially spiritual people. It really bothers us. So we have to be able to unplug this and to just let go. The world, just remind yourself, the world is Maya after all. The curly tail of the dog. It will stay what it is. So help whatever you can help, but we don't need to know all the details of what's going on. Another thing, it used to be Ukraine, okay? So everybody's obsessed. Now Gaza has come, everybody forgot Ukraine. So we have the need to focus on something. One of the teachers gave a very nice illustration. He said, the mind is like a dog. If you give a bone to the dog, it likes to gnaw. It's always gnawing at the bone. So the mind needs to think. And for thinking, it needs subjects. So give me Ukraine. Give me Gaza. I'm not telling that these things are not important. They are important, and we should think about them. But the mind takes these things and just runs away with it. So it goes far beyond how much we need to be thinking about these things. It goes far beyond. So the mind likes to think, and it will find any excuse to think of anything other than God. So I think, to answer your question, it's up to us. When we feel that something is negative, sooner or later we will take action. We find that this is hurting me. then we will take action. Some people feel the same way with politics. They follow politics, and now the elections are coming up, and they follow until they get disgusted and say, enough, I'm saturated, I'm done with it. So it applies to everything. Anything that takes us away from God, sooner or later, will disappoint us. It will disappoint us. You can follow the news, and you can have your political opinions, but don't let that take you away from God. That's the idea. There is a place for everything. There's a place for the news, there is a place for politics, and there is a place for your spiritual life. And according to the spiritual seeker, your spiritual life should be the most important thing. And all the other things are secondary. Sure.
Let's say you are in Ukraine or you
Yeah.
are in Gaza.
Yeah.
So then how does that change? So you're not taking information from the newspaper or anything. Do you say, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can, but make it as a service to God? Maybe you're in a position to help financially or physically, giving your time, or even trying to help people. So I guess at that point, although you might not be able to sit and meditate, but you can go and help.
Yes,
that you are serving.
absolutely. If you are placed in a position like you're in the midst of whatever the commotion is, you don't need to go to Ukraine or Gaza. Suppose there is an earthquake in the US, in your city. There is sometimes there are severe storms and everything is flooded. Are you going to sit and say, oh, you have to go and check on your parents, check on your neighbors, huh? And then when everything is settled, then you can go back. So it's just a matter of situation. In the Gita, Sri Krishna said fight, because there was a fight. There was a war going on. But what is the point of just sitting at the... I mean, my point is, it's like we are looking for excuses to be distracted. That's my point, Not that we are consciously looking. It is a subconscious thing. We are not consciously looking for things to distract us, but it ends up happening like that. No, if you are in the midst of whatever crisis there is, we have to act, and meditation becomes secondary. So what is the point of meditation? What is the point of japa? What is the point of your sadhana? Well, to realize God, but also when the crisis comes, you are ready. You have been practicing, you have been making yourself spiritually strong. Now you're ready. If I have to die, I will die, because I'm a spiritual person. I'm not attached to my life. So let me die helping others. How can you have that attitude? Because you have been growing spiritually. So one Swami said that the time to grow spiritually is every day. Is your ordinary life. Your boring, dull, everyday routine, that is the time to grow spiritually. Not when the crisis comes. When the crisis comes, you will be dealing with the crisis. You will not be thinking of your spiritual life. So we've mistakenly think that, oh, when hard time comes, I will think of God. No, when the hard time comes, you will have to deal with it yourself. So we have to grow every day. Just the dull, boring routine of every day, that is the moment when we have to grow spiritually by doing our sadhana. Then when the crisis comes, we are ready. And the wind blows, but our roots are very deep. That will not break us. We are firmly rooted in spiritual life. If our spiritual life is very shallow, then any wind will blow us away. Yes.
So Maharaj, but the hard times also make you realize, make you test how much faith you have.
Yes.
So hard time also is necessary too, but you cannot abandon it. But it's a balance. Hard time will be there. You cannot tell that I cannot have hard time.
Yes.
But in the hard time, it's test how much faith you have faith you have.
Yes, yes. And hard times will come to everybody. Saint Teresa said, some will be tested in the beginning of the spiritual life, some in the middle, and some at the end. But everybody will be tested. Sometimes you think, oh, such a person is having such an easy life. But nobody will have an easy life forever. Everybody has to go through things in life, no exceptions. So yes, crisis will come to everybody, but it is our day-to-day effort that will make us strong to deal with that. And the crisis also, as you said, they also make us stronger, but only if we can cope with them. Otherwise, some people commit suicide. Why? They can't cope. They can't deal with it. So the crisis can be overwhelming also. It is only by God's grace that we can make ourselves strong and then deal with the crisis. And then if we can deal with them, they will make us even stronger.